This is awkward. Today's video, I'm going to show you the progress that I've made in getting a start on this level 3 platform that will be sitting over the top of the first helix. As mentioned in the last video, this platform is going to house coal loader for level 3. What I'm going to do very shortly is take you around. Now, as I take you around this structure that I've started to progress, I'm going to show some photos of some of the construction work and sort of just take you through on my thinking and my approach and how I put it together. So behind me is where I'm up to with the progress of the last bit of level 3 on the main line run, and this structure sits over the first helix that I built here on the southern end. Now, there was some questions about the height of level 3 and I guess over time people sort of asked me what sort of heights I've used. Now, I might jump on the other side, that might tell a picture. I'm about 6'1" in height. This is where level 3 is sitting. This layout was built for me, so it was built to my height specifications, and this sort of height gave me a good eye level view if I wanted to, with the trains coming running around to the coal loader on the track. As you can see over here, this part of level 3 is slightly higher, but it's still within my line of sight, so it's worked out quite well. Now, obviously with the bottom level, I'm going to have to get a specialised chair because I don't really want to feel like I'm kneeling down, crouching down, trying to get a good view. So I'll have a special chair built for level 1 as I'm running trains. Back to this build. So I started at this end. In hindsight, there was a minor error and really I probably should have just started building this up to this point and then put these beams in last to build out this section. But anyway, and why I say that is this part here that was put in first is probably about 4 mil shorter than the main height of the framework with the structure that sits over the helix here. So I might just start off with the first slide. How I approached this was the top beam sort of level to the top frame, and basically put my level on it and see where it was, and I sort of took those measurements and then cut out this end piece here and then put it in. The center support beam here was put in last because once I had the top beam sitting over the bottom beam, it was just a matter of measuring that and putting that in. Now, this top beam is parallel to the bottom beam, and then obviously the future plans that I do have for the viaduct area, I needed to make sure that was all squared up so it wasn't going to be out of whack and sort of see those unsightly things. Sometimes you don't actually look far enough ahead when you're building. As you can see here on the second slide, I think it was my last video, sort of talked about how I was going to put this new frame over the top of the existing one. Now, I did slightly change those plans. What I thought when I was looking at it, instead of trying to muck around and getting those support over the top of the existing feet that you can see there, decided to make the footprint a little bit wider than the original cutout of this helix section here. Not too wide where it was going to possibly put too much weight on maybe unsupported areas thickness of the top platform, because really the top platform was only a 9mm plywood, so I just was very conscious there. But anyway, I was able to sort of expand it to this sort of width, and what I did was get the two ends built up first, and then once I had those two side end pieces, sort of middled it over the cutout section of the helix. Now this picture, what it's showing you, I've got the clamps in place. It's almost like an upside down table really. Once I put that together, I sort of got it in place, and here you can see I've actually glued it, and now it's fastened to the area sitting over the helix. The next thing I did was, you know, this is going to have a little bit of weight on top, but I didn't want to leave it to just the glue holding this structure in place. So what I have done, and you can sort of see there, I've sort of put brackets all the way around this structure, fastening it to the original structure of the helix platform. And basically those brackets are in place sitting over the main structure, so I had, you know, a lot of meat to bite into when I put the screws in. From that point, putting in these main structures in parallel, I just needed to make sure that the length was longer than my full diameter of the helix in that area, because later on, once I get to the platforms and then measure out what the middle is and do my circle to sort of get a really good cut that basically mirrors the top level of that helix, so it'll be all uniform when you look at it, and once the fascia's on it, it'll look really smart. So you can just see there, I've sort of glued it, got it clamped in place, and then I screwed it. Here you can see then obviously I had to put the parallel supports in the opposite way. I mentioned in the last video the method on how I was interlocking the pieces of wood. That's basically the same technique I used here on this top level hanging over the helix. So the next slide you can see here, I put in the other parallel beam. So now I've got a pretty decent platform here, and now it's just a matter of filling in those areas to make sure I've got plenty of support once I start putting the top platform on. Will be a 9mm ply that I'll be using for the sub-road bed. As I put this together, I was sort of thinking the top of my helix, it's all going to be open, visible, and it is going to be scenic. And I was also thinking, okay, well, how do I make this strong, but also maybe as I move forward into the future and start to scenic this top thing, what am I going to do with the background? Well, here was just a simple no-brainer. I just put in 9mm plywood just to help fasten it, but it also come in handy later on. It'll help to build out that scenic area on the top of the helix there. So this next shot, you can see I started to fill in certain areas on the top of that platform over the helix, but I also then started to put in the cross beams from the level 3 southern end framework over to that platform area. I did put in another cross beam right here, and that gets fastened to this point as well. Again, the next slide you can see here, I've started to fill in with the cross beams both here and here, and then obviously you can see some other changes. Just another angled shot here on the main filling area between the level 3 southern end framework to the main platform over the helix. As I progress, I've still got to put on the top platforms. Now it's going to be tricky. Obviously when I had the bottom platform in place, before I cut it out, I actually had the center hole there where I used my, I guess I call it a yardstick, screw it in the middle, and then basically take a pencil and draw that full circle around. Now it's going to be a little bit different for this top here, so I need to have my wits about me, and I need to go back, take some careful measurements, and then try to roughly get that center. And obviously, and if I can show you one of the techniques just to double check that I've got that circle roughly in place is I will take a square bit of wood, I will put it squarely against the bottom of the helix and make sure that is 90 degrees going up, just to make sure I've got lined up right where I end up putting that circle in. So I will go around and just check that around the helix. So basically this top section will mirror that helix. But what's next on the agenda? So I've got the framework. This is basically the framework that's in place for this area of level 3. I will start to put in the top platforms around this area, in this area here, and obviously I'll start to take that all the way up to that end as well. I still haven't gotten back to that transition bridge over there. I will still be working on that at a later stage. I thought I'd just sort of get the framework in here, get it sound and ready to go. So coming up, there still will be a couple of build episodes, and then I might do a couple of specialised track lane episodes. But look, we'll see how we go there. Look, if you've got any ideas, is there something specific that you want to see, you know, leave a comment below, and I'm happy to sort of have a look at that and see whether that's going to fit in as I move forward. Now, another thing that I sort of did as I was putting this together and waiting for certain things to dry, I actually built up the walls to the helix here. Show you a couple shots there. Now basically all you can see there is what I've done is I've sort of taken the height between the platform and the top edge and cut out another piece of thin strip of MDF 3mm board, and then basically just glued it and then clamped it on both sides. This is in preparation, I guess, and I'm still going to get back to this, so I know there's a few people still keen to sort of see what I'm going to do with this. I've got some big plans for it. I am going to invest in a lot bigger 3D resin printer, one of the biggest that's out there on the market, from a home point of view, not from an industrial engineering point of view, and it's just going to make this job a hell of a lot easier.